There's something you've been taught about money that isn't quite true. They told you money is paper, digits in a bank account, a thing you must chase, earn, and trade. But money is not a thing. Money is a relationship, and like every relationship, it responds to how you treat it. When you fear it, it hides. When you resent it, it avoids you. When you ignore it, it grows distant. But when you respect it, speak kindly to it, and feel joy in its company, it comes closer. It doesn't come because you worked hard enough. It comes because you became a match to its rhythm. That's the secret the mystics tried to tell us, what Neville learned from Abdullah, and what most people still miss today. Money isn't cold or greedy, it's energy, and energy listens. Imagine for a moment that money is alive. It sees you. It hears the words you speak about it. It feels the vibration of your emotions when you think of it. Every sigh of frustration, every spark of gratitude, it senses it all. When you call it hard to get, it frowns. When you say it never stays, it quietly steps away. But when you whisper, "You are welcome here," money turns its head and starts walking toward you. Abdullah taught Neville that everything is consciousness, and that includes wealth. The world isn't responding to what you do, it's responding to what you are, what you assume, and what you feel. If you assume lack, even while saying affirmations of abundance, the vibration of lack wins. If you assume wealth, even while your pockets are empty, the vibration of wealth wins. Because the universe doesn't pay attention to words, it listens to tone, it listens to frequency, and money is fluent in energy. Every moment of your life, you are in conversation with money. Most people don't realize it. They think about bills, they worry about debt, they complain about prices, and all of that is communication. It's the energy you're broadcasting. So, what is your tone with money? Is it anxious, impatient, apologetic? Would you stay close to someone who always worried you'd leave? Would you stay close to someone who begged for you but never trusted you? Money wouldn't either. When you say, "I need more money," the vibration you're sending is need. Need is the energy of absence. Need tells the universe, "I do not have." When you shift to, "I love how money flows to me easily," you're no longer speaking from lack. You're speaking from relationship. And that's when the law of attraction starts responding. It's never been about convincing the universe. It's about convincing yourself, because you are the universe talking to itself. Every thought you think has a frequency, and every emotion you feel sends a signal. Together, they create your personal magnetic field. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. You could spend hours visualizing wealth, but if underneath that visualization is doubt, the magnet points away. That's why Neville said, "Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled," because when you feel the wish as already real, you become its vibration. You stop asking and start embodying. You stop chasing and start receiving. Money comes when it feels safe around you, and safety is created by certainty. Not frantic affirmations, but quiet knowing. The law of attraction is not about effort, it's about energy alignment. You are always manifesting. The only question is what vibration you are maintaining. When you chase money, you tell it you're not equal partners. You make yourself the seeker and it the prize. But money doesn't want worship, it wants partnership. When you treat it as a friend, one that loves to visit, stay and flow, you stop chasing and start attracting. Think of the people who seem to always have it. They talk about money differently. They're not apologizing for wanting it, nor are they afraid to spend it. They trust it will return, because it always does. That trust is not arrogance, it's alignment. It's the vibration of having, and the universe echoes it. Abdullah told Neville to live as though it were already so. He didn't tell him to wish, to hope, or to wait. He said to act from the end. That is the highest form of respect you can show to money, to treat it as if it already belongs with you. You don't chase what's already yours. You care for it, appreciate it, and allow it. When you walk past a luxury store, instead of saying, "I can't afford that," say, "That's beautiful, and it's for me when I desire it." You haven't lied. You've shifted energy. You've spoken in the language of abundance. The law of attraction doesn't respond to truth or lies. It responds to belief, and belief becomes your reality. People often misunderstand giving. They think giving away money means losing it, but giving in the right vibration is expansion. When you give from fear, "I'd better do this, so I'll get it back," you're still vibrating lack. But when you give from knowing, "There's always more where that came from," you open a channel. You affirm to the universe, "I am abundant," and abundance answers back. Every time you give with joy, you multiply the vibration of wealth in your field. Every time you receive with gratitude, you strengthen the flow. Money is happiest when it moves. It doesn't like being hoarded in fear. It loves to circulate, to express, to breathe. That's why we call it currency, because it's meant to flow. Your true wealth is emotional. Your real bank balance is your state of being. If your inner world is full of scarcity, the outer world mirrors it faithfully. If your inner world is rich with gratitude, ease, and expectation of good, the outer world rearranges itself to match. You've seen this before. When you feel good, things go smoothly. When you're stressed, everything jams. That's not coincidence. That's the law of attraction responding to your dominant vibration. Every thought deposits energy. Every mood withdraws it. What are you saving? What are you spending emotionally each day? You can't fake frequency. You can't say, "I'm abundant," while secretly feeling desperate. The universe only hears the feeling, never the words. So shift the feeling first. Practice being abundant now, not when the money comes, but so the money can come. Hope is a beautiful start, but it's a weak magnet. Knowing is power. Hope says, "I wish." Knowing says, "It is." Neville taught that creation is finished. Everything already exists in the unseen. Your only job is to assume the state of the thing desired. So if money already exists in abundance, and it does, your task is not to make it appear but to tune your vibration to where it already flows. When you truly know, there's no waiting, no doubt. You move, you speak, you decide as if it's already yours, and that vibration, certainty, collapses time. That's when you notice the shift. Unexpected deposits, opportunities appearing out of nowhere, the right conversations unfolding at the right time. Because you're no longer waiting for proof. You've become the proof. You have an agreement with life. Whatever you believe yourself to be, life agrees. If you believe you're struggling, life nods. If you believe you're supported, life nods again. It's not personal. It's principle. Money is part of that principle. It simply says yes to your dominant assumption. That's why change never starts outside. You can change jobs, banks, budgets, but if the vibration of lack remains, you'll meet it again in a new form. The shift happens inside. When you stop treating money as master or enemy and start treating it as friend and mirror, you reclaim your power. Because then you remember, it was never money you were after. It was the feeling you thought money would give you. And when you create that feeling now, money has no choice but to show up. Neville called it a conversation within. Every day, you're rehearsing your future in your mind. Are you telling stories of lack or stories of plenty? That internal dialogue is your true prayer. It's your order formed to the universe. Abdullah told Neville, "You are in Barbados. Not you will be, not one day, but you are." And Neville accepted that assumption so deeply that reality conformed. He was in Barbados within weeks, without logic or reason. That's the law of attraction in action, not asking, but embodying. When you say, "I am wealthy," say it like it's already true. Not as a wish, but as remembrance, because everything you desire is already yours in consciousness. You're not manifesting. It's already manifested. You're simply aligning with it. When you begin to understand that money is not an object outside of you, but an extension of your consciousness, something profound begins to shift. You stop living as a beggar in your own kingdom. You start to see that everything you call reality is nothing but the reflection of the state you silently maintain within yourself. If money seems absent, it is because, deep down, you have driven it away through thoughts of separation, through feelings of unworthiness, through the quiet belief that it belongs to others, but not to you. The truth is, you can never be separated from what originates in consciousness, for consciousness is all there is. Money is not out there deciding when to come or go. It merely mirrors the inner dialogue you maintain about it. When you speak to it with fear, it obeys that fear. When you speak to it with certainty and gratitude, it draws near, because the vibration of gratitude is magnetic. Imagine again that money is a living presence sitting before you. See it as a dear friend who has come to visit. Would you scold it for not coming sooner? Would you talk about how hard it is to keep it around? Of course not. You would welcome it warmly, thank it for arriving, and trust that it knows it belongs. This is exactly how the universe responds to the tone of your inner speech. Most people talk about money as if it were an absent lover, always complaining, doubting, worrying it might leave. They create an atmosphere of rejection without realizing it. But when you treat money as present, when you speak to it as though it is already sitting beside you, your subconscious mind accepts that as truth, and the outer world is compelled to align. There is no deception in this. You are not pretending. You are aligning with a deeper reality that everything exists first within and then without. Abdullah once told Neville that assumption, when persisted in, hardens into fact. This is law. The external world has no power of its own. It simply obeys the command of the inner state. When you assume the feeling of already having, you are not waiting for proof. You are the proof. Life must echo the state you maintain, just as an echo never fails to return the sound that created it. This is why the wealthy remain wealthy even when they lose everything. They know how to feel rich again. And this is why those who think in poverty remain poor even after receiving money. They carry the vibration of lack wherever they go. The game has never been about money itself, but about the state of being that invites or rejects it. You must learn to collapse the illusion of separation between yourself and money. The moment you say, "I don't have," you create distance, and the universe mirrors that distance back to you. The truth is that you and money are not two separate things. You are the same consciousness expressing itself in different forms. You are the awareness through which money becomes visible. When you declare unity, when you feel that money is already part of your existence, something remarkable happens. Your energy field opens, resistance dissolves, and what once seemed blocked begins to flow naturally. You stop being the one who seeks and become the one who allows. If you look at your bank account and see little, don't let appearances fool you. The number on the screen is just a delayed reflection of a past vibration. The instant you shift your internal state, the reflection must eventually follow, though it may take time to rearrange. Reality is elastic. It bends to the frequency you hold. So look not with eyes of doubt, but with eyes of faith. Speak as though you already possess. Feel as though you already possess. Walk as though you already possess. This is the way of those who understand the law. You might wonder, how do I feel something that is not yet here? But that is the secret. It is already here. Everything exists in consciousness now. You are never trying to create something new. You are merely tuning into a frequency that has always been. Think of a radio. Every station is already broadcasting. You don't create the music. You simply tune to the channel you want to hear. Likewise, prosperity is a station that is always playing. When you tune to lack, you hear silence and static. When you tune to abundance, the melody of wealth fills your life. The tuner is your feeling state. The dial is your assumption. And yet, many speak of money with mixed emotion. They want it, but they also judge it. They see others prosper and feel resentment, not realizing that such thoughts vibrate as rejection. You cannot attract what you despise. If you secretly believe that having money makes people arrogant or corrupt, your subconscious will protect you from becoming one of them. It will push money away in order to preserve your moral identity. But when you see money as neutral energy, as a servant rather than a master, you release the judgment that blocks it. Money is not evil. It magnifies who you already are. In the hands of the generous, it expands generosity. In the hands of the fearful, it expands fear. The energy itself is pure. It merely obeys the direction of consciousness. Every time you pay a bill, you have an opportunity to shift vibration. Most people sigh, complain, or feel resentment as they hand money over, and by doing so, they send a message to the universe. I don't like this. I don't want more of this. But the wise pay with gratitude. They say inwardly, "Thank you for the service this provided me, and thank you for the abundance that allows me to pay with ease." That simple change of feeling transforms an act of loss into an act of flow. Gratitude is not politeness. It is alignment with the vibration of having. And what aligns with having always attracts more to have. The more you live in that state of ease and appreciation, the more you begin to sense money's personality. Yes, it has a personality because everything in consciousness does. Money is like a loyal friend who enjoys being around joy, respect, and freedom. It dislikes anxiety, guilt, and judgment. If you were money, would you rather stay with someone who constantly worried about you or someone who celebrated your presence? You already know the answer. This is why some people, no matter their background, always find themselves provided for. They have befriended money energetically. Abdullah taught Neville that the world responds to you according to your inner self-concept. If you think of yourself as poor, the world must treat you accordingly. If you think of yourself as prosperous, the world must bow to that image. It cannot do otherwise. The reflection cannot contradict the image that stands before the mirror. Therefore, the most powerful change you can make is not in your job, your income, or your surroundings, but in your self-concept. Begin to see yourself as someone who always has enough, who is supported by life, who is a magnet for abundance. Do not just say these words. Feel them until they become your natural identity. When that feeling stabilizes, reality will rush to confirm it. When you stop needing money to feel secure, money will start showing up effortlessly. Need is resistance disguised as desire. Desire, when pure, is the recognition of what already exists. But when you add fear to it, when you say, "I need this or I'll fail," you push it away. The law cannot bring to you what you declare as missing. That is why Abdullah would never let Neville pray from a position of lack. He would say, "Live as though it were already done." That is faith, not blind belief, but the calm conviction that what is unseen is already real. Faith is the bridge between imagination and experience. So when you think of money, do not think of it as something to get. Think of it as something to acknowledge. It is already in your field. Feel it moving around you, flowing like air. Whisper to it with gratitude. Tell it, "You belong here. Thank you for being part of my life." Say it not mechanically, but with quiet sincerity. Over time, this conversation reprograms your subconscious. It dissolves the old walls of resistance and allows abundance to find you in natural ways. Unexpected checks, opportunities, creative ideas. These are the messengers that appear once the inner gate opens. Understand too that the universe does not reward struggle, it rewards alignment. Effort without alignment produces exhaustion. Aligned action produces ease. When your inner vibration matches the feeling of wealth, even the simplest actions yield multiplied results. When your vibration is low, even great effort produces little gain. This is why two people can do the same work, and one thrives while the other struggles. The difference is not effort but energy. To align with wealth is to walk in harmony with the law of consciousness. When you reach this awareness, fear of loss disappears. You no longer cling to money as if it were your lifeline, because you understand that the source is within you. Money becomes a reflection, not the root. You realize that abundance is not something you possess, it is something you are. And as that identity deepens, life begins to mirror it with astonishing precision. Money flows in ways that defy logic, because consciousness, not circumstance, governs reality. You cease to be a beggar asking for provision and become a creator decreeing it. That is the shift Abdullah wanted every student to experience. To move from supplication to command, from waiting to assuming, from fear to faith. When you treat money as a living presence that responds to your inner tone, you unlock the same power that moves planets and shapes worlds. And from that moment on, prosperity is no longer something to achieve. It is something that unfolds naturally from who you are. At a certain point in your journey, something subtle yet powerful begins to happen. You stop thinking about money altogether, not because you no longer care, but because you no longer worry. It becomes like air, so natural, so present, that you no longer question whether you'll have enough. That is when you truly understand abundance. The anxious thoughts quiet down. The need to prove, to grasp, to compete fades away. You find yourself moving through the world with ease, making decisions not out of fear of lack, but out of joy in expansion. You stop asking whether you can afford something and start asking whether it aligns with your peace. This is the vibration of mastery, the state Abdullah lived in and the state Neville taught. It is not about riches in the conventional sense, though those may come. It is about freedom, the freedom that comes from knowing you are the source, and that the reflection called money can never be missing from the consciousness that creates it. When you treat money like a person, like a beloved companion, you begin to understand its moods, its rhythms, its way of responding to love. You recognize that it flows most freely when you are at ease, playful, and generous in spirit. The moment you tighten your grip or fall into fear, the flow constricts. The moment you relax and trust, the current resumes. This is not superstition, it is energy physics. Fear contracts, trust expands, gratitude multiplies. The frequency of joy is the frequency of abundance. Every emotion you feel is a signal sent to the universe, and the universe replies in the same tone. Speak softly to money, not in desperation but in friendship. Tell it that it is safe to be here, that it is appreciated, that it is free to circulate. The more you do this, the more it mirrors that affection in return. You will also begin to notice that abundance has many forms. Sometimes it shows up as an opportunity, sometimes as an idea, sometimes as a gift from an unexpected source. The universe never repeats itself because consciousness is infinite in creativity. That's why Neville taught that you must stay faithful to the end result, not the means. Don't worry about how money will come. The how belongs to the infinite intelligence that organizes galaxies. Your job is to stay in the state of being that declares it done. When you live in that frequency, the universe bends over backwards to bring the visible into alignment with the invisible. Abundance is not about having piles of wealth sitting still. It's about knowing that the flow never stops. You could give it all away today, and it would return tomorrow, because the source is within you. The river doesn't fear giving water to the ocean. It knows there's always more upstream. That is the kind of trust that turns ordinary people into magnetic ones. When you meet someone like that, you feel it. Their calm, their confidence, their ease. They aren't scrambling for money. They're walking with it. They treat it with the same respect you treat a trusted friend, and money responds accordingly. This shift also changes how you see others. You stop envying those who have more and start blessing them, knowing their abundance expands yours. You stop pitying those who have less and start holding them in the light of possibility. You realize that there is no competition in consciousness, no scarcity in infinity. The ocean doesn't run out of waves. The sun doesn't run out of light, so how could consciousness run out of expression? The illusion of competition disappears, and in its place arises a quiet certainty. We all drink from the same invisible source. When you grasp this truth, your generosity becomes effortless. You give not to get, but because you know there's always more to give. You become an instrument through which abundance circulates, and the universe, recognizing a clear channel, pours more through you. That's why those who give joyfully often find themselves receiving more than they could ever imagine. It's not charity, it's circulation. To give is to say, I am so full that I can share, and that very declaration keeps the flow alive. Now you begin to see why the mystics never separated spirituality and material life. To them, money was not profane. It was a mirror of consciousness, a visible form of the invisible law. When Abdullah taught Neville, he didn't tell him to renounce the world. He told him to see it correctly. He showed him that the external world is an obedient servant of the internal state. When you command it from love, it serves you with grace. When you command it from fear, it obeys with chaos. The law makes no moral judgments. It simply returns what is planted. So every time you think a thought about money, you are planting a seed. Every assumption, every reaction, every inner conversation is fertile ground. What are you growing? If you find yourself saying, it's hard to make money, you've planted struggle. If you say, money comes to me with ease, you've planted flow. The soil doesn't discriminate. It just grows what it's given. That's why awareness is power, because when you become aware of your inner speech, you can change it. You can stop speaking lack into existence and start speaking abundance. The change may feel small at first, but persist and the garden of your life will transform. There will be moments when old patterns resurface, when fear whispers that you might not have enough, when worry tries to reclaim your mind. In those moments, do what Neville would do. Return to the end. Close your eyes and feel the satisfaction of already being provided for. Don't fight the fear. Transcend it with assumption. The feeling of having is stronger than the thought of lack. Each time you do this, you reinforce the bridge between imagination and reality until the two become one. Soon you will notice a strange and beautiful thing. What used to take effort now unfolds naturally. You'll receive an unexpected payment, a new client, an idea that leads to income. But these will feel ordinary, not miraculous, because by then, the miraculous will have become your normal. That is the true fruit of this practice. It's not about one-time manifestations. It's about living in perpetual alignment with the source of all supply. At this stage, you may begin to experience a quiet reverence for life itself. You'll look at the trees, the sky, the ocean, and realize that everything in nature is abundant without anxiety. The birds don't budget. The rivers don't hoard. The flowers don't compete for sunlight. They simply express their nature, and the universe provides exactly what's needed. That is the model of true prosperity. You too were designed to live that way, not in frantic pursuit, but in effortless expression. When you fully accept that money is consciousness, you stop seeing it as your savior or your enemy. You see it as a mirror, a teacher that reveals where your energy stands. If money feels scarce, it's showing you where you still hold fear. If money flows easily, it's showing you where you've surrendered to trust. Either way, it's helping you wake up. That's why you must bless it in all its forms. Whether it arrives or departs, it is doing its job of reflecting your inner state. One day, you'll wake up and realize that the old chase is gone. You'll feel light. You'll look at your life and see abundance everywhere, not just in numbers, but in peace, relationships, opportunities, time. You'll see that money was never the goal. It was the doorway through which you rediscovered who you are. It taught you how to align, how to trust, how to feel the invisible as real. It led you back to consciousness, the only true source. And now when you speak of money, it will no longer be with anxiety, but with affection. You will say, Money and I understand each other. It flows to me easily because I love it without need. You'll smile when you pay a bill, knowing that every outgoing dollar is a messenger returning soon with friends. You'll see someone else prosper and feel joy because their success affirms the abundance that includes you. You will have stepped into the state that Abdullah lived from, that Neville preached about, that every master has known, the state of union with the divine law of consciousness. That is when you finally grasp the meaning of the phrase, what happens when you treat money like a person? Because by treating it as alive, you remembered that everything is alive. You stopped worshipping the reflection and started honoring the light that casts it. You stopped chasing and began allowing. And in that allowing, life itself became generous. You learned that abundance is not a future event but a present state, that the universe has never withheld anything from you, and that the only door that was ever locked was the one inside your own belief. So now, let your new relationship with money be one of friendship and flow. Speak kindly, act confidently, give freely, receive joyfully. Know that every dollar, every opportunity, every blessing is simply consciousness saying, I am here. You and money are not separate. You are the same energy dancing in different forms. Treat it as sacred, and it will stay. Love it, and it will multiply. Forget about it, and it will still serve you, because the love you've established will carry it forward. And when someone asks you how you did it, you won't talk about methods or strategies. You'll smile and say, I stopped treating money like a thing and started treating it like a friend. Because that friend was never outside of you. It was waiting, all along, in the quiet space of your consciousness, ready to respond to your love. That is the secret Abdullah taught, the law Neville lived, and the truth you have now remembered. You are the source and money is your echo. When you love it rightly, it sings back in harmony, and life itself becomes an endless symphony of abundance.